Hello everyone, welcome to The Rundown. Thanks to AGL for all your energy needs. Go to agl.com.au. Andrew Embley, Norm Smith medalist premiership player, and Ryan Daniels from 7 News are here again. Boys, we're all scarred after the Good Friday game. Just in summary, it was tough viewing.
Oh, that was one of the worst performances I've seen West Coast put out there for a while. They were beaten around the contest. They were beaten at ground level. Their bigs couldn't control the game. Yes, conditions didn't suit them, but Port Adelaide adapted to those conditions a lot better, Ryan.
The Port's game plan, they came prepared. They said, right, we're going to run, we're going to get the ball forward at any opportunity. We're not going to try and finesse it. West Coast got caught out trying to be perfect, which is what they've done so well over the last couple of years, kicking. It didn't work in those conditions.
Well, Ember, starting with you in regards to that game plan, it's not the first time Port have tried to implement that against West Coast, but they pulled it off. And as we walked into the ground, you felt those conditions certainly suited their style.
And full credit to Ken Hinkley and the coaching staff. They came with a game plan and they executed as good as I've seen anyone execute a game plan against West Coast. But at the end of the day, if you are harder at the contest, and they will bully West Coast, their mids at the contest, they out-hunted the Eagles. They kept the ball of the big man. The West Coast big men didn't take any intercept marks in the first half. Okay, once that ball hit the ground, as you said, yes, in those conditions, they just couldn't defend the Eagles. And on transition, they were just so quick, weren't they, Port Adelaide? So they were very, very good and certainly deserved the 4 points.
Are you worried after seeing that, or is it one of those games where a reigning premier can just write that one off, or is there genuine concern? For me, there was some concern that someone like Ollie Wines can just tear you apart like that, regardless of the rain.
I think there was a couple of concerns. I think the balance, we spoke about the balance of the team. I'm not sure if they got that right in those conditions last week. I would have preferred another small to come in for one of those tools. The West Coast big men didn't have an impact on the game whatsoever. And I think it's a mindset. Yes, you are absolutely right. Ollie Wines had a really good game, but you can't tell me that Luke Shuey and Elliot Yeo aren't A-grade midfielders, okay? They were well beaten by a more hungry and more desperate Port Adelaide midfield last week.
Who plays on Tom Hawkins, Ryan? Who's the go-to on Tom Hawkins?
I think the obvious one with Tom Barrass out is Will Schofield. He's done the job before. He's an excellent defender. He always gives you exactly what you expect. So I think he's probably the guy. If you put McGovern on him, you're just taking away your best offensive defensive weapon. So it just sets you back a little bit. And after last week, I think they're need to get back to what they do well. So for me, it's obviously Will Schofield.
And I agree with you, Ryan. I think Will Schofield is the kind of player that can play on bigs and smalls. He's done it in the past, and he's a competitor. And I think he's going to have to rely on, though, the West Coast Eagles mids up the ground putting pressure on, okay? Because if you allow guys like Dangerfield and Selwood and Kelly time and space, then he will get hit up every single time, Hawkins, and there's nothing that Schofield, McGovern or Barrass or anyone could actually do about it. So he's going to get that pressure up the ground. If that's the case, that high ball comes in, Schofield's going to be able to do anything he can to bring that ball to ground, but it's also going to allow McGovern to be able to come across and play as that intercept marker, which we know he does so well.
I can read you two like cheap suit. You are so predictable, and I think that's exactly what West Coast is starting to become with the McGovern thing. That's why I think McGovern...
Predictable wins your grand finals, Tim.
Yeah, but I think everyone can work you out. We saw that last week. They went in with the same game plan. West Coast, we talked about not kicking the ball up in the air, so they couldn't take sort of a chop-off marks, and McGovern didn't take one. Geelong will play a very similar game plan at their home dunghill. There's no doubt about that. And West Coast would have tried to acclimatise to the Geelong surroundings this week.
So you want McGovern to play on Hawkins with Barrass already out. So who's doing the intercepting?
Find Tom Cole. Tom Cole's not... Brad Shepherd.
Tom Cole.
Why are we taking McGovern?
Brad Shepherd is one of the best intercept marks in the team.
Is he though, or
Absolutely
is he? No, his possessions are going up because he's getting uncontested possession. He's taking the two.
He's had a change of game style. I'll tell you now that Brad Shepherd intercept marks when fully fit and third man up. Almost the best in the competition.
We're panicking. You're panicking too much now about Hawkins and about Geelong forward line. Let McGovern do what he does best. Schofield, time and time again, he gets the job done. Why wouldn't you just back Schofield in and say, you know what, McGovern, you do what you need to do. We don't need to panic. We don't need to panic. Last week, right, was an event. Yes, an aberration. Whatever you want to call it. Aberration. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. Okay. whatever little word you want to call it. Okay. They got beaten in the contest. It was a mindset for mine. Okay. They'll come this week. They'll be a lot better, and they will certainly give themselves every chance.
You're so predictable, you blokes. So predictable.
As he said, predictability wins flags. If you take Jeremy McGovern, their best defensive weapon, away from the attack, Suddenly you've
It
got...
didn't work last week.
Oh,
Where
we'll throw
were
him
you?
forward. Throw him forward. We'll get Kennedy to go back and play on Hawkins. All right, throw it
ridiculous.
around.
Hey, but you know what? That's being stupid.
Okay, so no, you do make a good point, but I do believe.
Come on, come on, stick to me.
Leave McGovern. Let him do what he does. Let Schofield do what he does. They'll get the job done.
Give Geelong and Chris Scott some credit. You reckon they're not going to know that what McGovern's going to do? But you know what? Play your ace. Say to Hawkins, you know what? You're in for a tough one. McGovern's going to play man on Hawkins. Hawkins get off the chain. We saw last week, Will Schofield, first game back, hadn't played a lot of footy. He will get found out down there on Tom Hawkins if they go one-on-one. Absolutely get found out. And I rate Will Schofield, but he's better on a small.
He's gone back home. It's his home ground. Will Schofield. He's a Geelong boy. That's the answer right there.
Optus Stadium has come under question, of course, with injuries to Barras and also Willie Rioli. Is it now becoming a place where Adam Simpson needs to rest players because of the firmness of the surface?
The simple answer is no. It's your home deck. You have to play your best players there when they can play. The real issue here is you've got Optus Stadium saying it's fine, the ground is not too hard, it's well within the testing that the AFL demands, and you've got the West Coast Eagles saying it's far too hard, so somebody is wrong. So can we get some sort of independent testing done to find out how hard that ground actually is? Because you can't just go, well, we train there and suddenly Tom Barras has a foot and Rioli has a foot, so let's just say the stadium's too hard. Maybe it is. But then on the other side, you've got Optus, who we can't just assume that they're lying. So someone needs to give us a correct answer here. Is the ground too hard or is it fine? That's what we need to know. And you can't start resting players because of firmness of ground. That's like going to Docklands and not playing guys there because you're worried about injury. You can't do that. You've got to win games of football. So you've got to have your best players out there. You can't just be picking and choosing when they play.
I'm with you, Ryan. I think the answer is no as well. My concern, though, again, I understand the hardness off the ground, but you can't tell me that these stress-related issues with Tom Barras and Willie Rioli is from playing on Optus 10, 11 times a year. It's a workload thing. Now, you have a look at where West Coast training at the moment. Now, Lath Lane, since they re-turfed Lath Lane, and I've had a lot of people who's played on Lath Lane, it's a very firm ground. They're trained on that ground a lot more than what they would actually play on Optus Stadium, okay? So I believe, and again, I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I believe it's the training and the workload that they're doing on these harder grounds here in WA that have actually caused the issues rather than them playing 10, 11 times at Optus Stadium during the year.
Could you tell when you were playing that some grounds were harder than others, or is that ridiculous?
No, in Perth, no doubt, the grounds here in Perth are a lot harder, okay? Through pre-season, I used to always train with grass cats on because they used to protect my feet a lot better, okay? When you went to Melbourne, obviously the grounds are so much more softer and they're a lot more forgiving purely because of the conditions.
Josh Kennedy said he doesn't have a problem with the ground and they all wear different footwear. So it is a horses for courses thing. And was it an issue last year?
They did bring it up last year that it was too hard, particularly at the start. I remember
well, are
having
we in the same boat this year? Are we, with the weather changing, it'll eventually soften up, sure.
Yeah, and I think that is the idea. It's just more the start of the season where it's come off, a very dry summer and there's not enough rain, just softening it up. I think that's the issue that the Eagles have, and they're saying there's not enough being done by Optus, and that's when we get the response from Optus saying everything's fine. So something's wrong.
In regards to the resting debate, we might have it next week. I'm a big fan for the resting debate, but not here in Perth. Away trips, I think, to be able to, for the guys to have 2 weeks here in Perth, sleeping in their own bed, recovering really well, I think would be more beneficial than resting here in Perth.
Okay, can they win in Geelong?
They can, but not if they...
Hang on. No, just give me the answer, mate.
No.
Andrew?
Well, at the start of the year, we spoke about who was going to be...
Oh, he gets an explanation.
No, on a serious note, I said West Coast's toughest away trip was Geelong.
He did say that.
I did say that.
He also said Tom Barras would be a club champion. Look what happened.
And he was going really well until he...
I was waiting for this.
He was winning until he actually hurt himself.
We need to check if he's leading after round 4.
And I think it's going to be very difficult for West Coast. It would not surprise me if they win. I didn't think that they could probably beat Collingwood. They did. I don't think they will probably beat Geelong, but they certainly could. I will say that Geelong will win this game, but I tell you what, I hope the boys can prove me wrong.
Yeah, Jeremy McGovern to keep Tom Hawkins goalless will be the difference. That is the rundown. Well done, boys. We'll do it again next week. The rundown for AGL. For all your energy needs, go to agl.com.au. Until next week, it's goodbye from the rundown.